Our second speaker for this session is Dr. Rekha Ramachandran from the Down Syndrome Association of India. She comes from Tamil Nadu, and she will be speaking on changing society attitudes from neglect to living in the community. I think it is very good that we have a speaker from a country where there's also a lot of disparity like our own, and where there are challenges for people to live in the community, and we'll hear from the good work that they have done through their association. Rekha has been is going to chair or be the chair of the next World Down Syndrome Congress, as India has won the bid for this next time. She has been a real driving force in India, and has, as many other parents that I know of, actually made Down syndrome part of their career trajectory, because she studied and achieved a doctorate specializing in aspects of Down syndrome. And as chairperson of the Down Syndrome Association of Tamil Nadu and the parent of a child with Down syndrome, she has done pioneering work in the field of rehabilitation of children with Down syndrome. She's a promoter of Matru Mandir, Chennai, established 28 years ago, which is a daycare center devoted to the cause of rehabilitation of children with Down syndrome, and also an executive member of Down Syndrome International. You could read more about the wonderful work and immense opportunities that she's created in her own country in our conference book, but we are very happy to introduce her as our next speaker to speak about the rights, basically, of families and of families within the community. Thank you, Rekha.
Good morning to all my friends from the world of Down syndrome. For 30 years, we have dreamt that a day would come when people with Down syndrome and their families would have rights. The right to believe, the right to better health care, the right to education, and the right to prove themselves. For 30 years, we have traveled to the remotest parts of India, some parts of Nepal, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, and the Middle East, with a team of therapists giving hope to families, counseling them, putting their families away of guilt and pain, and encouraging them financially, and learning and teaching them to believe in their children. After having seen and given hope to over 4,500 families, and attended over 17 pediatric conferences, we have a more aware public and a slightly more receptive medical fraternity. We are moving ahead. A far cry from the days when we were told that people with Down syndrome would come into the world and disappear. The days when we were told to wait till the child would die because of low immunity. Those were the darkest days of our lives. Wherever we went, people sympathized, they prayed for us, but no one set any guidelines. The days when we were told that this was our karma, and we were meant to suffer. Days and nights we waited for a single doctor to give us some hope. Then it finally dawned on us that if we kept waiting, we would have lost many children, including my little one, and all the time in the world. So if I had to fight my karma and the world, so be it. I was ready for war. Friends, Asian women are not allowed to speak. They're not allowed to fight their fate. We have been taught to accept all our challenges without a murmur. But I was born at a different time, and I took it on myself to fight all the medical information and the doctors and change their attitudes, and also get the rights that were due to people with disabilities. I started marching into hospitals with a team of parents and ripped out all the records that read hopeless. Started a campaign against pediatric our biggest challenge. It worked. At least 50% are now more positive and the rest are non-committed. That is because if they ever say anything which is not positive, we are at their doorstep. Can you believe that overnight, my bad karma had turned good and everyone believes that my child was a blessing? Friends, over the last 60 years, India has evolved into an important player in the international arena. During this time, it has achieved a number of accomplishments, including becoming a leader in computer and communication technology. Even more impressive, India boasts one of the fastest growing economies in Asia. Despite such progress, 25% of the population lives below the poverty line, 40% of the population is illiterate, and approximately 70% of the population live in rural areas and lack access to adequate medical care and support services. Furthermore, India is still very enveloped by cultural standards and norms that have prevailed for hundreds of years. India has the largest population of people with Down syndrome, and with 1 in every 750 live births, we face the most arduous task of awareness, acceptance, integration, and rights of persons with Down syndrome, their parents, and the responsibility of the society at large. What was considered as a disease in 1866 slowly changed to be termed as debility, and then to disability, which is now being acknowledged as a different ability or intellectual disability. The shift is attributable to a slow but steady attitudinal change in the mindset of all stakeholders. In a society of competing dualism between rich and poor, urban and rural, developed and undeveloped, it is hard to imagine the conditions and challenges that the most vulnerable members of society face. There are many such vulnerable groups present in India, but one of the easiest to forget are the millions of individuals with intellectual disability, and people with Down syndrome fall into that category. A reliable disability register and database is lacking. Thus, many persons with Down syndrome in India have not been formally identified. The family work in separate workshops and attend special schools. There are a number of possible explanations for this view. First, this may be a reflection of the widely held belief in India that care for an individual with a disability is the responsibility only of the family. Second, and quite related, those surveyed recognize that there are major obstacles to inclusion, including a lack of proper resources and public's negative attitude. Third, the public expects that including a person with Down syndrome in workplace or regular school will have negative consequences because they do not see these people as having the skills necessary to live away from their families, work in skilled jobs, and go to schools besides their peers. In short, they do not see people with Down syndrome as competent enough to be part of society. As a result, these individuals are faced with many obstacles to overcome if inclusion is to be realized. The results of this survey provide a snapshot as to the attitude of the public towards people with Down syndrome in India. And I sometimes feel that it is a disgrace that we are even sitting in that place where we sometimes look at these people and don't want to even sit next to them. And we have had that many a time. That the individuals with Down syndrome in particular and the parents in general have a low level of self-esteem on accounts of various parameters needs no emphasis. The situation is exacerbated when the economic condition of the family in which this child is born is poor. We think sometimes that poverty is being hungry, unclothed and shelterless, but not being cared for, neglected is the worst kind of poverty one has to address. And to get these children into mainstream is one of our main purposes. In a country where a girl child is still considered a curse, we have an arduous task of accepting a girl child with challenges. We have found that economic assistance, however small it is a morale booster and tends to improving the level of self-esteem. Here also the role of the government becomes very vital. giving them monetary assistance and also making available affordable healthcare facilities to these people is one way of achieving this. The assistance from the non-government organizations is mostly clinical-centric. Also, the reach of the NGOs is limited. This is particularly so in developing countries, more so in India. Here is where the government's role becomes very, very important. First and foremost is creating awareness. The unfounded beliefs and superstitions are important reasons for raising public awareness and destigmatizing disability issues. The effort to increase awareness must be accompanied by two key features: cooperation and commitment amongst all the agencies, governmental, non-governmental organizations, voluntary and user groups, self-help organizations, professionals, and educational institutions, etc. And the positive involvement of the mass media, the press, the television, the radio, etc. With the entire publicity machinery at its command, the government can reach out to the nooks and corners where the literacy rate and awareness is very low. The second is the economic upliftment of these individuals and hence the families. These are possible only if the government machinery is sensitized to these issues. Such sensitization is likely to happen only when the officers right on the top are empathetic. Precisely this is what is being done by the government in Tamil Nadu in India. We formed a sort of a model which was done in Tamil Nadu, which we are trying to get implemented in all parts of India. The civil services are being put to use to spread awareness in every part of the state. Besides opening out medical facilities, the government has also started providing financial assistance to the affected persons. There has been a perceptible increase in the self-esteem of the children and the families since there is a sense of economic importance. This has resulted in attitudinal change for the targeted families and the children on the one hand and the common man on the other. There is a perceptible shift in the attitude from one of disgrace to one of acceptance at a social level. In the public sector, there have been serious and sustained efforts to ensure a wide coverage of community-based services, especially in rural and underserved areas. I've been given less time now, so. Okay, the Buddy Walk and the Down Syndrome Day have been a huge awareness. Mushrooming of Down syndrome organizations, active participation at meetings, related news in the media as a result of the changing attitudes and not devaluing the person with Down syndrome. Only now more volunteers are coming forward. The persons with Down syndrome are more visible. This is a reversal to the previous trends, and experts say it's being driven by a change in attitudes toward the disability of the last 20 years. This change has also resulted in an improvement of healthcare for people with Down syndrome in India. Though the syndrome was once seen as not worth living, is today more accepted. But we have a concern which comes from people from the disability rights, which is about the antenatal tests and the ultrasounds routinely offered to the older mothers who are more susceptible to have children with Down syndrome. Friends, India is a mystery. She has so much to offer, and yet she shies away. She has an aura, and people have resilience. We accept change slowly, very quietly. It has taken 20 years to build up a population that is slowly letting go of mystical and illogical beliefs. All this has been possible because of the global community and a concerted effort of like-minded people from India and Nepal who have accompanied me here to stand up and work towards our goal of integration without prejudices. We now need for all of you to attend the Congress in 2015 and create a huge awareness